Hey everyone, it is Ellen Teresa from Advocate of Soul podcast. And as many of you know, I love the human story. I love the human journey. And I love to see how people overcome challenges. And I think in a time like this, when our planet is just in such disarray and the whole collective feels like it's up in arms, we need stories of hope and we need stories of power and we need stories where people come with an authority upon a subject or they're sharing what their journey looks like. And then we can sit back and go, oh, yeah, I think I can relate to that. So that's why we're here. And today I'm bringing on my final guest of the season before I take a 2-month break, JS. And JS and I met on a project that we were doing together. And I just love his spirit. I love his heart. I love his joy. I love his candidness. But I really love the raw authenticity with which he shares his story. And so I hope you guys find as much as I did out of it, which was tremendous light, tremendous gold, just tremendous love and kindness and just courage, the courage to do something that is either going against the grain of everybody else or it's something that you just know in your heart you have to do and you just got to take the step. So JS, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So we met on this project together and
Yeah.
we got to know each other and hear each other's stories. And I really felt with Pride Month and I felt with just the way things are going in the world that you're a perfect guest for this month. And so I would like you just to tell us your journey, your story in your own words, however you would like to.
Um, I'll do the quick version, then we'll expand on what you find interesting in there. Basically, my journey has started, I would say, mostly around COVID time, 2020.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was sick for 7 years with body dementia, which is Parkinson and Alzheimer together. So I've helped my parents for a year maintain that as home caregiver as much as they could, and he went away with COVID. So that was like my first, I would say, real grief I had to work with.
Mm.
And the same year, I lost also my father-in-law. So it was really a weird time for us, a lot of heaviness. And as many did, I went into what I knew, and then I went into work. So I didn't deal with my grief. Basically decided to take two management job. I had huge responsibility into a multinational corporate. I was living, what was supposed to be the model and the whole
Mm-hmm.
ride and like the car and the kids and whatever it is. And then after that, in 2021, it caught up with me. So one day I couldn't go back to work. Burnout was just like on my path.
Mm.
So my mental health kind of dropped. I was the one taking care of everyone in my teams, bringing muffins, giving vacation, making sure everyone was fine. And then I ended up in my living room, like I did not believe what was happening to me. Actually, I was just like, wow, I fall for it. I'm part of the
Mm.
statistic. Like, what did I do wrong? So 2021 was really a rough year of just realizing that. But in my mind, I was just like, let's get back to being a functional human and get back to work. That was really my
Yes.
mindset.
Yes.
And then in the midst of all that, my mother-in-law became to our charge because of Alzheimer. So as you see, parents were going downhill. So we got a charge of her, moving from bases to retirement homes with cares. Um, but we were just like, yeah, we're gonna hold the fort. With my wife,
Mm. Mm.
we're gonna be fine. And then 2022 came, and my mom took her own life. So after taking care of my dad, mixed up with bipolar disease, she couldn't take it anymore. So I had what I would call a chance
Mm.
for later on, but
Yes.
I
Yes.
had a chance that she did a tentative, which give me a month with her before it worked. So she was in hospital, but we got like real, honest, real talk. And then I saw the darkness. For the first time, I witnessed what it was I mean, I experienced my home before that, but seeing what it was for her and how
Mm.
far she was compared to what she was letting appear. So that gave me really a glimpse of, okay, that's what it means, like mental distress, like real
Mm.
mental distress. So after her passing, I was again in my living room and was like, okay, what is that life? Because I was seeing myself going back again on that downhill period, and it was just like, it doesn't make sense for me. Like, am I going to be a third generation because her dad did the same thing before her, exactly the same?
Wow.
So it's like, wow, I'm the next one in line. Is that like
Mm. Mm.
generation I'm bringing on? So I decided out of the blue to say, okay, I'm gonna go on happiness quest because happiness for me was the equation of darkness. How do you get that up there? It's happiness that is the opposite. As I think I see it as simple or as stupid as that. Call it what you may. But I
Mhm.
just went on that quest and say, I'm gonna find happiness. So 2023 was really a year of I tried everything. I became yes man, as in the Jim Carrey movie. Like someone was
Oh
suggesting,
gosh.
like go try hypnotherapy, go do that. Go try something else, go do that. Go try like either the traditional or more spiritual stuff. Let's go and do it. And I was saying yes to everything. I was like the devil in the holy water. I wanted to get out
Mm.
of my darkness and find what it was. And then beginning of 2023, I had found it. Like I was just like, I really feel better. I dropped a lot of baggage, dropped a lot of stuff, but I was just like always coming back to I feel like I'm stuck at a point that I can never go past that. And someone above all those treatments or people I met one day told me like, could it be that just you're in the wrong body? Like, should you have been born a boy? And it was like, what a weird question is that?
Yeah, that is
But
that is. That's not a
yeah,
normal question, is it? You would just
yeah,
have,
and I'm 36 years old at that point, and I'm like a fruit on your fridge door and just passed out. I mean, it's past due date. It's too late for me. So I just put it all under the pillow and say, I'm not going to talk about this, but I just mention it to my wife like this and then go past that. And in 2023, she was like, maybe that's just the threshold you cannot go over with. Like, I think you should go and explore that and see what's inside of this. And she was really good sport. So there's some people with girlfriend or boyfriend that are gonna run. Mine give me the kick in the ass. And she was like, "You're gonna go find someone that went through it. You're like, go to the bottom of that." And when I got back home, I was just with a smile in my face that was never there before. That just made sense. Didn't mean I had fun receiving that news,
Mhm.
but it made sense talking with someone that I lived through that. So I'd say for another like 3, 4 months, I kind of had for that, eyed from this and said, I'm too old again. My career is established, doesn't make sense for me. I had even a more public career at that point. I was consulting in business, so I was traveling to meet with people and were like, nope, I'm too old. Next lifetime. That was just kind of my story. Next lifetime, we'll do that. And then one day I just came to the conclusion that that was the blocker. That was that was the thing that I could not hide, or it was going to bring me down on that slope every time I do not go and really decide to do it. So I jumped and I was just like, okay, we're going to do that, but I'm going to go one step at a time because I started with looking into books and surgeries and the end result and everything that it's going to need. And just I panicked. So it was just like, okay, let's go back and one thing in time and we'll see where it leads. But I firmly believe that was the path I needed to walk on.
Can I jump in
So
for a second? So did
yeah, go ahead.
you ever have any inkling of this at all in
It,
your upbringing and your growing? I mean, did you
it,
feel
it, it, it was clear I should have been on that path from years, and that's where it's weird in our conversation because I was like, I've met with trans people because I was a lesbian for 20 years. I mean, we, we've we've met people or we were along in circle or pride events or whatever it was, and it never crossed my mind or my wife's mind before that. And I was the perfect example at 3 or 4 years old. I would say today, you take me as a child, it's clear as day that
yeah.
that was what it was going on. But I don't know if it's cultural. I don't know if it because my parent didn't know at that time. Um, is it because even myself, I blocked it so much that I just never went in that question? I can't quite put my finger on that. So I was just like either huge deny,
Mm,
maybe. But I was the perfect example. Like I love sports. I was like more than tomboy. Even if I go
mm,
back, my sister sometimes teased me that I used to call myself a boy's name when we were playing. Like we were doing roles. I was dad. I was not mom. I was like, I mean, it was really clear. But I just assumed like I'm a tomboy. Like, so then when I came out as a lesbian, it makes sense. Like it gave a part of an explanation from this, but it never went beyond that. And that's what I discovered when I went to meet someone that I went through this. When we kind of exchanged, like it's not that I, let's say, don't like bathing suit. I hate bathing suits as a girl. My chest was a pain more than just hiding it as a woman. And that's where the funny part is when I came back home and exchanged with my wife, I was like, how much on a scale of 10 do you like hate your boobs? And then it started a conversation of, she was like, well, sometimes I'm complaining about this, but I don't hate them. And I'm like, okay, now I'm realizing I really hate them. Like
Wow.
it's more than a discomfort, or it's more than being afraid to show it in public. It's more profound than that. And that gave me hints. And for her, the weird thing is it's been way clearer for her earlier than me. She was like, that explains so much about you. She was like, that explains so much about how you behave, how you act, are you. I was like in a shell. Like the person you see today, I was really far from that at that point. And that's what I did blocked. That's what I basically blocked myself somewhere. I'd say around 8 or 9 when I realized, when you cannot play the blurred line anymore.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
I couldn't hide what I liked or who I was, and I needed to fit in a box, so I choose that one, and then I was unhappy basically all that time. So
So when you were practicing as a lesbian, you said you were a lesbian for 20 years. You were doing
yep.
that. Where were your family with that? Were they okay with the fact that you were a lesbian? How's your family around just sexuality before we continue with your story?
Um, Half enough. I would say my mom didn't react really well at all. My dad was more welcoming of me. He's like the I call it the like unconditional love is my dad. Like you meet him, he's a guy like everyone's welcome. I think he knew I was someone I cannot today, which is the part I'll never get a chance to tell them. Like they were both gone before I realized that. But for my mom, it's been really a rough road. So when I had to do my second coming out, that's that's
Mm.
where my apprehension were, because I was like, wow, the first time didn't go well. I had like um friend that just turned their back on me because of religion. We were like both sides of a canyon, and we couldn't agree on that. So it ripped friendship. It ripped part of. It took like I would say almost 10 years for my mom to like my wife, and I would say like to accept and to have a certain level of agreement. So I was just coming back with that baggage,
Mm.
like of I, but my head was strong. Like those 20 years, I still decided to live my life as a lesbian. I mean, I changed city to chase my wife. I was like, I'm going on that path, no matter what. But it brought up a ton of tension. So that was a bit of what I was afraid the second time. That's what was putting a brake on all this. That, and I would say more effect on my daughter. I mean, she already had to live with two moms as a sticker for a while. That was going to be like, well, one mom is going to be dad, and it's so those were like things I wasn't sure. I'm coming from a small, it's not rural town, but it's a small town, or I would say a region where judgment is really hard. All entrepreneurs know each other. So it's just like, wow, okay, when I change my name, how it's gonna unfold, as I said earlier, career-wise. So it's been a rocky road, I would say, getting that lesbian title for a while.
Yeah.
So that was part of my apprehension a bit before switching.
Wow. I can so relate, not to different aspects of your story. America is so riddled with this religious thread that, any type of sexual orientation is wrong, anything. And right now there's a huge attack that is coming against trans population and all of that. And that was another reason I brought you on, because I want people to understand that you're normal, actually.
Yep,
You're
I
normal.
like to think so.
Yeah, yeah, you're living out loud, and maybe you're living in a way that confronts people and their own issues. but it's not because you've done this to create a war or to come against people or anything. It was something you had to do. You knew to do this. And it's interesting because um I have a partner and we're lesbians, and she was talking with me. She said, on one hand she can count, maybe true trans people, people that truly are trans, not the ones who jump on bandwagons and all of that, but the ones who
Hmm.
feel like they are in the wrong body. So
Yep.
let's talk about that. How did that unfold for you as this began to continue?
Well, that's where in that part of the discovery, I would say there was a huge. Well, there was a moment where I was starting to realize, like, okay, I'm maybe really in the wrong body because of um, either my mindset, like coworkers that I work with me when I came out were like, it was in my mind, you were already a man. Like the way I behaved at work, the way I was thinking logically, or
Mhm.
I mean, I studied in a men's field. It was already like really prominent. After that, it was just really how I felt within myself compared to, there's that emotional, social kind of transition. Um, but the first time I started to say, okay, I think I'm gonna go on that journey, what's the first step? And then I would say as soon as I started to change my name, going through hormones, the hormones were really quick for me because I already had some issue, I would say around 20 years old, where I tried to block my male hormones. So I didn't know at that moment, but that was basically hormone therapy for blocking myself from my male part and becoming women. So when I got into hormones, it took like, I would say 2 months, I was starting to really look more male. It was absolutely fast. And it was just
That is
like
fast. That's fast.
really fast.
Some
Like,
other people that it takes a lot longer.
no, exactly. It was just like, that's how I say now, it was really a road I was meant to walk on. Because at one point I was like, why do I go through this lifetime? Like, two coming out. Come on. I mean, ah, I don't want to do that. But then I started to unfold, and those are like in small things. Like I used to wish I could go shop for clothes on the men's side, but now being allowed to go through and decide on t-shirts or shorts or whatever it is, just like I was seeing the freedom in myself, and it was a struggle part. I mean, finding your known or changing every small habit. I was like, like finding my male product on the shelf compared to women's shampoos or stuff. Or it's just like you reinvent yourself every step along the way. But the more I started to get into that stance, even I think before my surgery, there was like a really long way of, wow, I'm really becoming more self-assured. I'm way less not careful, but restrained in my words or the way I discuss with people or I present myself. There was just like an assurance in like my feet were now in the ground. That's really how I tell it. It's just like my
Mhm.
feet were now at the right place. Um, physically, emotionally, even in my energy. Like I worked on the spiritual realm, and energy wise, it makes sense. It's like my body stopped fighting. That's a real way to explain it. But and then after that, when I got my first surgery with mastectomy, and I came back, and the first time, like I went to the pool with just a swimming trunk and no shirt. I mean, my smile, I think, was enlightening from kilometers from here. It was just like, it was just like the day of being relieved, being myself, even like if people could judge me or the result, whatever, because in me it was making sense with me. So how I explain it is sometimes like people think it's an optional thing to do. Like what is optional is choosing myself or realizing that for me, I was just like down the line, the choice is do I go and be happy and be myself, or will I live in the darkness for the rest of my life? That was the only choice I had. It was just like, do I save my mental health or do I choose myself? And I even go and I don't know if it'll upset people, but I say it's a bit like chemotherapy. Like for me, hormone therapy is like chemotherapy. You have the choice to do it or not. It can may work or don't work, but it's the way to save life. So why don't I go take a chance on that chemotherapy and save my life? To
Yes.
where I was seeing myself like the roller coaster were even deeper. And it was like one day I'm gonna do the damage my mom had before me or people had before me. And I was thinking of my daughter, and I'm like, okay, would she want a happier parent, even with many struggles, than a parent dealing with darkness? Because I've witnessed that. I've witnessed that with my mom. So this is the only choice I had. It wasn't, as a people, I think sometimes believe I just go up one day and say, "Oh, I'll dress like a man," but that's absolute that's not the case. That's not where that discussion should go. And I know it's in part hard to understand because it's such internal feeling sometimes, and it's really
Mhm.
internal, and it gets political. But at one point, it's just a health issue with the person. It's just being who you are, and that's, as I said, that's the card I've been dealt with this life. So what I'm gonna do with it is just my own happiness from it.
Oh, I love your story. I love talking to you because you're breaking it down. I mean, you're being really real. Like I had to go to the store and
Yep.
figure out where I needed to buy what how do I now shop for men's products? Okay, like I don't even think that, that way. So it's kind of like, wow, that's I didn't even go there with that. So what do you say
Hmm.
to people when they say it's a choice? Because this is the big thing right now. Well, this is a choice. People told me being a lesbian is a choice. Well, you're just
Well,
making a choice.
well, they
How
see
do
it
you
as a
how do you
choice.
come back with that?
Well, I think that's where I come back and say what the only choice I had was, do I choose myself, whatever means it's gonna happen, or I'm gonna still stay enclosed and in the darkness. And I think that choice, people have it on way more level than that. And that's where after that I unfold into happiness. Because what I realized at that point is I did put my happiness as the first criteria. Instead of fear, instead of judgment, instead of hesitation, what I put was like I I deserve to give it to myself.
Hmm.
And that is where, after
Hmm.
that, tons of choice in my life changes. And every time it's like, is it happiness that is on top? Is
Yeah.
it my happiness, my family happiness, my wife's happiness? Is that the first criteria on our decision? Or is that fear or religion or what you're used or what your parents are thinking or what your friends are thinking of you? It just, it can go through all choices you do in life. And that's the only choice I had because it wasn't me, that discomfort, that distortion. It wasn't within me. I The best example I give, it's just like I couldn't look at myself in a mirror. Never in my life I was able to say I was beautiful. I was it's not even criticizing myself. I couldn't bear seeing myself. Like going take a shower was painful, but I never realized it was part of this. That's when I started and go and see unfold, and it was like, wow, okay, that's why I was so uncomfortable. But now I'm taking picture and I sent you like headshot. And that first time taking picture, it came back and I was like, hey, not bad, buddy. Like it's good. And I was like, wow, okay, I can look at myself and appreciate myself. That those are really the details that are behind all that big choice that we just call political or whatever it is. In my everyday life, it was, am I able to be with myself? Am I able to be happy? Am I able to feel like myself, like not shelter myself and to anything else? So that's, I think that's where people ask me like, you have a lot of courage. I'm like, no, I was just naive from the beginning, but that's where courage come from. Because if you know all everything that goes along the line, you won't do anything. So you better not know at one point and just say, we'll navigate when we'll get there, and that's gonna be it, and that's gonna be fine. Because if not, you'll never find courage. But that applies to every decision. I'm seeing people around me now that are afraid of taking huge risks or decision or goal living, and I'm like, what's your major factor? Like, go back to this. It's your
Mm.
major factor in your decision, and do it for yourself. You deserve it. I mean, you have one lifetime.
Yes, yes. And I imagine the decision has changed everything regarding your relationship with your wife, regarding your relationship with the world around you, because how we feel about ourselves. I mean, if we're always at odds with ourselves, isn't it
Yeah.
interesting? If we're at odds with ourselves, then everything around us is at odds with us.
Oh yeah,
But if we
it is.
are at peace with ourselves, we're content, we have the self-love going, we are living out loud the way that we were created to live and be and move and do. It's amazing how that shifts your house. So I imagine you've had quite a few changes in all sorts of ways.
Yeah, well, I got the feedback the first time, like I radiate now compared to who I was before. And now I'm looking at picture and it's true that I look like I'm in a shell. And then now I'm seeing like I can go and talk about this. I mean, I did a podcast to talk about my transition. It's a French one, unfortunately, but I mean, I went on even further to talk about this, but as I was before, I would have never even dare doing that
Mhm.
without transition. I wouldn't talk about my difference. It changed everything. I mean, but from the small details to the big things, like we needed to learn in my house before. I just got my son lately, but before that, we were all a women's house. So just switching, because in French we conjugate differently with men and women.
Oh God.
So
Oh my God, I never would have
switching
thought about it.
switching, and usually we say that the masculine, the way French is done is the masculine is gonna be stronger, so you're gonna use masculine if there's feminine and masculine. And I was joking because friend came around and they were like misconjugating, and I was like, no, we're an exception household here, women's win, so it's fine. It doesn't apply to me. And I started to make joke a bit about it, saying like, if you use my old pronouns, or let's say my 80 years old aunt makes a mistake, I won't correct her. I know it's not out of disrespect. She just used for me for 40 years having another name. So just like we change a lot of little stuff like this, like, okay, we need to adjust to that. Or the biggest thing I talk on my podcast was how the social eyes is different. Like now, my wife is the handyman in the house. I always call her the man of the house is my wife. So she'll fix things. She has fun doing mowing the lawn. Like she has fun doing all that. And then we go and we shop for washer dryer or a new pool. And the guy come in and explain it. And he wasn't talking to my wife anymore. He was talking to me. And I'm like, you don't want me to like maintain the pool. Like you don't want the result of that. Like, no, 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 no. And then at one point, I realized I was kind of jinxing it for her. She wasn't getting the information we should have because he started talking to me, and I was like a nuisance. And I was like, get out of there. So I was just like, I'm like, I'm gonna make it up the fact that I have to go house in the house. And I was like, did you notice that? Like he really stopped talking to you. And now with the washer, I have to go in the store, and the guy start to tell me how to install it and fix it. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. She's gonna do it, but she was
Mm.
ignored, but completely ignored. So that was really an adjustment, or your part of, I would say, the LGBT. So like walking down the street, holding hands, giving kiss. Like for 20
Yeah.
years, we trained ourselves to refrain from that. And then first time we hold hands, I think because she was carrying me around after my surgery, and the guy in the walkway comes and he's like, "Oh, love, it's so nice," and we're like, "Someone can compliment us on that? Like, we
Oh.
can get good feedback, or now we can hold hands when we go like in the airport." Or it was just like such a reversal of being in a box, not being in a box, but now that we are in the other box, there's like expectation from us. It's just like as women we choose with our like our taste or what we like to do, but now we were like there was a framework coming with it. I'm like, no, that's not how. Is that how we want our household to work? Is that how? So that led to a completely like different spectrum of, okay, we're expected to behave a certain way now. That's a weird feeling. Do we like that or don't we like that? Like who's how do I want to be like a man? What is a man? Like what is my spectrum? Like am I macho man? Am I the pink man? Am I like who am I on that spectrum? That's I think something I completely unexpected from that transition. For me, it was so much time and energy spent on you need to label yourself. So am I or am I not?
Hmm.
And I think we drop all the human part of it. That is Now that you've chosen what it's gonna mean, and it is small choices. It is like the hormones have changed my emotional response. I don't respond the same anymore. I was just like, I did not expect that. I was expecting hairs, I was expecting muscle, but I wasn't expecting like the way you're thinking is gonna change. Like now I cook, I cannot cook the same as I did before. My brain is not fine. I could multitask like a no-brainer. It was just like my forte was doing like three jets at the same time, and now I cannot do it anymore. I'm burning stuff, and I'm like, what's happening? Like, where does that come from? So that's really the part I say like we don't speak about it a lot.
Mhm.
That the part where I explain, on my podcast how some emotion kind of erased for me. Like I'm comparing like women, it's like a color palette. Like when you go in the store and choose your color, like women have it all. Like it's blue, light blue, all the blues. But when I come a man, it's like for me it's blue. Like
Yes.
child painting color. There's blue, there's red, there's yellow, there's green. Bar. So I go from I'm really angry, I'm really sad, I'm really happy, and I kind of lost that spectrum of difference or nuances of color. And that's where women come to me and I'm like, they're like, when you're explaining that, I'm starting to understand my boyfriend. They're like, whoa, okay, wait a second. There's something that makes sense because you're speaking like both languages into this. And I never thought I would go into that part. But today when I say I'm good, I'm fine, it's a whole answer. There's no like as a woman, like, oh, I'm feeling fine, but there's this and there's that, and there's like no, it disappeared. I'm fine is a complete answer. Period. It's okay. It's simplified, so it brought me into a world that I had no idea kind of existed. Like the switch of things. There's no one discussing about this, or barely if I can find some literature or some people maybe on, I would say social media, but it's really rare we discuss that. It's a human thing. But we all have those expectation on us. We all have those way to behave. Now I see girl with their boyfriend. I'm like, no, he's just thinking that way. He just don't know. Now I have empathy for him because I know like the way he's feeling, but I can understand where you're coming from because I've had
Mhm.
38 years of that thinking. So it's a really weird, yeah, really weird path. I knew was gonna come out of this.
It's a complete overhaul. I've never heard, no one has ever done this type of explaining to me that how you
Yeah,
literally have changed your very brain. Your brain
yeah,
is completely the way you respond. Then I find it fascinating the expectations, but that one I was actually going to come to because I was like, I wonder if you're like dealing with some of this like patriarchal structure, the way that a man now is to be with a woman. I mean, when you were a lesbian with your wife, that had its own set. It has its own
yep,
set of ways of being and doing. But now you have this other set, and now people are assuming. I find it, oh my gosh, I find this eye-opening. I'm
yep,
loving to listen to you because I know that there's going to be people that are going to want to hear that it truly is not just, oh, I'm waking up one day and I think I'm going to do this. No, you really shifted and changed your entire
yep.
life has changed.
Yeah, and everything, and I worked a lot on myself, like with spirituality, energy, therapy, whatever it is. So when it comes to those elements, and I don't have any research, I mean, I'm no scientific, I'm just a simple guy with a testosterone shot. But I'm like, my brain has really changed. Like, I'm trying to define it is that like because let's say I get rid of other stuff that I'm more surged with myself. Is it because I manage my generational wounds that I'm this way or not? So there's really like a weird, interesting conversation at our house. Like, do I blame this on the hormones, or is that because I worked on myself, or is that? But that changed myself completely from all over. And that's been not a hardship, but I would say with people that know me, it creates sometimes a gap because I'm far from. I'm the same, but not the same. Like a really a 2.0 version of something. It's really like
Mm.
the same, but with tons of adjustments. So the way we're reacting, the way we are, for my wife, it's been like, as you said, patriarchal or whatever, the way we're organized. For her, it was a challenge of, you want me to go back in the straight box? She was like,
That's right.
you really want me? That's good. And that's the thing I think bugged her more than the fact that I had made that decision. She was like, no, I'm sticking with you along the ride. That's not the problem. She was like, but that means I need to go back and be straight. And she was like way more activist than me. So like
Right, right.
she was flag rivaling way more than I was. And I'm like, yeah, I think it means we're in the straight box. So now we go grocery shopping. You never know the story behind. But for her, she was like, okay, I need that new identity anymore. Who am I if I'm defining myself about that? Like she was like, okay, well, I got to adjust to it and house our her femininity into all this. My masculinity is showing up. How do we adjust ourselves within that spectrum? As I adjusted myself, she is also, but she's sticking for the ride, which is rare. I mean, I'm the luckiest guy just for that. So, but it's really a challenging part to just say, okay, now let's say I get more guys' response, so I'll be quicker to go to anger. Like now in traffic jam, I can swear a lot, and that wasn't me. She's like, okay, why do you go overboard? And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna blame the hormones. I don't know. Like it
Right.
just gets out of me. But I'm like, wow, okay, now I can understand burst of rage that can happen. So for her, it's okay, adjusting. So now you're reacting that way. So how am I balancing that? So we're just navigating that.
Mm.
It's better, we're stabilizing, but it was just really okay, that's the new you. Okay, so who am I besides that? Or
Mm.
and that's where I say like people that saw me really frequently in the last 2 years can understand everything, but people that haven't much seen me, like they don't see all that unfolding beneath. It's a bit, I'm the same, but not the same. So
Yes, yes,
it's a
yes.
really a weird, interesting ride of, but as I said, every little choice I decided to put in the balance and decide what I was gonna do with that. So
Mhm.
that's really how I choose to redefine my life and go with it. But yes, there's expectations.
Oh my God. This is so, I'm sorry, I rarely get quiet in situ. I mean, I'm quiet. I
It's fine.
usually let my guests talk. That's very important for me.
If I talk too much, stop me. That's the because yeah, I can go on for hours.
But but I am like, I've never thought of it down to the very dynamics of the change that you're talking about.
Mhm. No, it's really, and that's one part I think that's why I did the podcast at one point because I was like, that's not what we talk about. Because when I announced it, I think the only question was, will you have a dick in your shorts? And I was like,
What type of
is that
question
all you think about?
are you
And
talking
that's
about?
really but that's the only thing people are thinking about. Like, are you gonna have one fixed in there one day? And I was just like, okay, so that's how we resume manship to this. Like the complete picture. And that's where I even went a bit cocky with my podcast. I called it In My Shorts because I was like, that's the only thing that interests you, but I'm going to talk to you about the whole other spectrum of the thing because that's just the final result, but that's not what's building me.
Yes,
Maybe I'll have to get there, maybe not, but that's my own choice. It shouldn't matter to you what's in my shorts. I mean,
right,
except in
right.
my bedroom, it's my own choice. But we resume it only to that final part. Like that's the external look on that transition. And I'm like, it's way more than this. And because of my transition, I know way more about men and women that I never knew I'll know of. And
Mhm.
that's that's a part we don't discuss. That's a part we just skip. I think we just like don't want to see, but yeah, it's a
But this
ride where
this
there's way
is
more.
this is the dysfunction that you see all over the world. And obviously, I'm in
Yep.
America, so but this is the dysfunction we see, the roles, the men and women. I mean, I was
Hmm.
married to a man. I was married to him for 9 months because I felt the church wanted me to. Worst experience of my entire life. Hated every moment of it. It shouldn't have been
Hmm.
there. I'm a lesbian for goodness sakes. But the heteronormative stuff that came
Yep.
at us was unbelievable. His role and how he was approached and talked to, like you were talking
Oh,
about. I mean, I could tell you stories, but I just remember thinking there was a hierarchy to it. And it was just like, wow, where's this come from? And obviously I was raised in religion, so the hierarchy came from there. But I mean, it's everywhere. We don't know how to do this, to navigate this at all.
it is. It is. It is really present, and in really weird, tainted ways. Like it's part of what is the expectation, and that's also, I think, part where we don't allow ourselves as human just to find ourselves without these stickers or without categories, just to say like I like this or I don't like that or I'm like this or this is what I want. We don't allow ourselves. We need like boundaries and setup, and now I understand like even the pressure that the men has on themselves, you know, to provide, to protect, to be strong for their family. Like there's a whole spectrum also on them that is, I think, today causing anxiety. Like I can see men distressed now with that model when you're not allowed to put a toe outside of this. You need to be defined as like, I'm gonna take care of my stuff. And it's impressive when we get into those discussions. And on the women's side, I mean, I had been climbing the corporate ladder for 20 years. I mean, I've seen the glass ceiling. I had been confronted with, women discrimination, and now I'm a man sitting at the table, and there's so many things that switch that I'm now a biggest feminist than I was before because I'm seeing that kind of gap in between. I'm just like, I'm seeing where there's way more discrimination against women than men because as a man, I get the luxury, like, simple thing with my friends, they're well intentioned, but we'll have a supper and it's the expectation that as a woman, I was going to cook. But now I can stay at the table and chat and hanging out with the guys, no care in the world on cleaning up. And and it was an old dynamic, new dynamic, but it's just like the way it is. I'm a man. It's fine. I can be at the table. I'm like, why do I have to accept that, do that, unfold that kind of process of okay, that's not an expectation anymore. Or I've seen like people at restaurant, the guy is waiting to be served by his wife. Let's say she's sharing a pizza, and then he'll wait, and she'll have to wait to all her other children plus her boyfriend. And I just want to jump the table and go hit behind his head. I want to go and slap him and just like, you could give a hand. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, like, that's what he's been expected to do. That's what he's been probably raised or thought that's how men's work. And I'm just like, wow, there's tons of bias we don't see in our everyday life. And yeah, that's how I said I became the biggest feminist now. And I'm fighting the other side of the fence. It's just like I'm like, calm down, GS, just chill. They don't know that you know, or like I'll hear like ladies complain about their time of the month or something really ladylike, and I just want to jump in, and then I'm like in the airport and I'm like, nope, they don't know your story, don't go there, you look weird, like you don't do that. But I'm like, okay, I can feel you, I understand what you're talking about, I know what it is. So but yeah, there's an interesting box we try to fit ourselves into.
So what would you say to somebody who is wanting to transition? Like how do you help or support people more so in that decision? What would you say to that?
I think one, you're free to question yourself. And I think that's one thing we don't allow ourselves enough room. Like you're allowed to have those questions within yourself. I mean, in 36 years of my life, I should have been asked by someone. It could be normal, it could be okay to question ourselves. um, when you see that your discomfort is really there, like go for help. I mean, I had a psychologist that helped me and said, no, no, it's really like dystrophia. I think that's how you say that. Like you really have a distortion within you. It's not just like your imagination or how I say like a bit of a discomfort. It's really a distress signal within you. Like your body is in distress. It was like I was on alarm full time. So like go and reach for that help freely. I think that's what we should do or we should have access to. And that's for all subject, by the way, like every spectrum of either gender or taste we have. And after that, I think that's where I try to put a more down to earth message because that's what I found missing. What is the reality of it? Like go and discuss with someone that lived through it. Go discuss on those human things, not like the surgeries or the big political debate. Just go discuss like how that person came to that decision, how it blocks me in my everyday life, how it makes me feel sad or down, or when you get those conversation, I mean, you get down to earth, and that's what you're gonna live with. But I think, and as I said, people prefer to speak about, I would say, the lackness of hormone therapy, like people change their mind later on, or yeah, I think like every subject, like, but is that 1%, and then you're gonna block the 90% to do their transition correctly? That's the stupid stuff. So I would just like go explore, give yourself time to see if it's really that. I mean, you can try it. There's one part where even before going to hormones and say, do where is my natural instinct? Like, said, would I feel like go dress like a man? Would I feel like not having boobs? How would I feel in those situations? So I think that's where I would, I think, point out a little bit at the beginning from that, and then go on and one step at a time. I mean, it doesn't mean that you jump on that road and need to fit 100% of what is expected from you as a man. It's, I think that's the wonderful part of a life experience. I mean, you get to experience it, you get to have something particular hand out to you and just go and have fun with it and try it and see how it feels. I think that's the only way to really know, I would say, how it is.
Oh, there's so many ways I could go here. So what would you say to the people who are the political people who are coming up or the religious people? How would you support them or guide them? And because they're conditioned, right? They have their own level of conditioning.
Everyone has conditioning. Uh, I always said I didn't want to get into politics or being an activist, but I'm being one without wanting to be one. But in my mind, politics should serve as giving us guideline how we behave as a society to respect everyone. So for me is yes, there's, I would say, I call them hot points where how do we regulate, let's say, sports or restroom or such. But outside from this, I think there's been kind of too much of a switch where politics needs to go everywhere. I think it's just like we need guidelines, but I don't need your opinion to exist. And I think that's where everything is mixed up. And on all subjects, I mean, in the US, you have your specific. In Canada, we have our other specific. I'm even in Quebec in Canada where there's another set because of our bilingual setup here. But it's just like give the room to people to be themselves and just occupy on the community well-being. And I think that's what is in politics today is not functioning. It's based on fear. Everything is based on fear. Like, why do you put regulation is in the fear that someone's going to do that, like 90% of the time. So if we got just a bit out of that fear mindset and just like we as human, like what does it change in your life that I'm behaving the way I am? I think if we could go back to just that discussion, we would already make a big impact. And that's where I like to get it back to reality. Because when I discuss my choice, when I discuss my emotion, when I discuss, like I'll go on and discuss restroom on a TED talk, I'm bringing everyone back to just the human aspect of it. So you not that you forget, but you forget about that propaganda that I'm something that shouldn't exist. I'm just getting back to, hey, there's my experience. We're in 2025. I mean, technology exists, surgery exists. I'm like, when I said I'm getting a mastectomy, don't try to guilt me into like cancer survivor have some, plastic surgery exists and it's not for trans people. So just like don't get me into that. That's because of the fear that I'm different, but I'm not different at the end of the day. I just want to go grocery shopping like
Mhm.
and live my life with my child. Period. Like we do so much huge debate out of nothing, and I think that's because of fear. So as long as we're gonna be feared rule, we're a bit stuck in this. And as I had, I would say, challenges with people in religion in my first coming out, I know when someone is strong on their standpoint and believe that there's a book 200 years ago that dictates it something that is best out of it, well, they're stuck on their part of the canyon and they're not ready to concede anything. So as long as we're going to refer to this as humankind, we might have challenges. So, but I'm just like, I'm going to concentrate on what I can do in my daily life, in my day-to-day life, and that's going to bring me happiness because I deserve it, no matter what they try to tell me. I
Yes.
deserve it at the end of the day. So,
Oh, JS, you're amazing. I'm sitting here and I'm just thinking how human you made this whole discussion.
yeah, it is, but it
At
is.
the
It
end of
should.
the day, that's what it is, right? It's
Yep,
it's
it should.
about being human. Talking about bathrooms and doing all of that other stuff. Okay, but talking about like your emotions, talking about the day in, day out, we all can relate to that. Like I can relate to that. I can sit down and go, "Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah. Oh my God, yes."
Mm,
Or I can say, "Oh, I can't relate to that, but oh wow, that helps me understand my friend over here." Well, that's fantastic. And so I think what you've done is you have brought it back down to what really matters, which is
yep,
the heart of the person in front of you. And I just
absolutely.
thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I think that's the key. We need to come back to, and I say my crazy wish is instead of fearing transgender, one day I hope someone realized that they could use us. Like I get insider knowledge on how men and women work. Like, could we start to see our difference that way as human and whatever the difference is? I mean, whatever you experience, that's your human life. So can we just go have heart to heart conversation where we just open our mind and realize that someone just has a different story than you? That's what we need more. That's just what we need. And I think people crave for this when they feel lonely right now.
Thank you. Thank you, JS, for being
You're
here.
welcome.
It's definitely out. I feel like I could take it everywhere, but you're just a free flow and I loved it. And I just want to say thank you for your honesty and just your
Welcome.
authenticity. And there's a joy. I have like tears welling up in my eyes because I just am so thankful that you're living as you. I know what it was like being forced into boxes and not living as me. And that's a
Mm,
horrible place to be in. It's a lonely place to be in. It's isolating and it's depressing. And why do you want to be here if you're in that position?
yep.
Um, which is why, just bringing you on and sorry, that truck going by, bringing you on. Welcome to my area. Why bringing you on just really, really mattered because I know that there's power in someone's story being shared, and you're going to share it, and someone's going to be listening, and they're going to be like, oh my gosh. And even if one person's life in this, which I
Hmm.
need more, but I think even if one person says, you know what, I feel now more confident. I want to be happy. I think we've shut that down that I want to be happy. It's like,
Hmm. Yeah.
it's like that's selfish. It's selfish for you to want to be happy and to live for you and to do. No, actually, when you're living for you, I find in my own life anyway, that it allows me to love more people and there's a greater humility, there's a greater kindness to all of it when we're living for ourselves because we're loving
Yeah.
us first and in turn we're loving someone else.
It's like if we linked happiness with arrogance, which is two different worlds.
Completely.
Happiness is just choosing yourself to being aligned, which makes you happy. But we've been taught to shut what's in our heart. Well, that's the path I went on, and that's where one of my book come from. It just I was so used to shut it down that when told me someone sit me down in the first time and tell me do what makes you happy, and I'm like, what's that?
Yeah.
I cannot find an answer. I'm in front of a blank page. We're thought to shut that down, but the more we go through it, after that, we see that we do so many things that doesn't make sense. That we should like listen to ourselves way more, and we all deserve it. That's our human right. It's to be happy and to be ourselves. So that's what we all should just go back to. But it's a long way sometimes.
And to have choices. Like we're created to have choice. I mean, I remember when I realized I could make the choice and I was just like, wait, what? What? I have permission to do
Hmm.
this? Wait, I have
Yeah.
permission?
Uh-huh.
And that's that is a word that's really strong in me is this
Yep.
whole oh, I have permission to be a lesbian. I have permission to be myself, to be how I feel I've been created. And you over here don't have that opportunity to tell me that, even though you think you can. So but it is very big, the whole thing of choice and self-love and the healing and the
Hmm.
transformation that comes around that is so big, and our planet is so desperate for conversations like this, so desperate to just hear your heart on your perspective. Yes, it is your perspective, and maybe somebody else has something over here, but that's your who
That's
cares?
fine.
That's how we find ourselves as we bring this whole thing together and we see how we can not rub each other in the wrong way, but how we can actually coexist and see each other as equals and be in each
Yeah.
presence. Yeah.
And there's that conception of because I'm leaning into my happiness, I'm taking something from someone else. And that
Yes.
doesn't exist. I mean, I'm not robbing any rights. I'm not robbing anything. I just want to be with my own happiness, and we deserve. When I start to use the word, you deserve to be happy. Like you deserve to make the choice for yourself, not your boyfriend, not your friend, not your mom, not whoever's around you. It changed the spectrum. It's changed the way you can take your decision and find the courage to be yourself.
Yeah. Thank you, JS, for being here today. Truly.
Well, you're welcome. It was a pleasure.
Oh my gosh, I just love talking to you. So where can people find you and find things about you?
I'm on social media. As I said, I'm bilingual, so there's French stuff and English stuff. I'm trying to manage both right now, but I'm on social media. I'm gonna be doing a TEDx talk in October uh, with the restroom thing. And yeah, I'm starting to get more present online. I have a book out on Amazon that is called My Apple Pie of Happiness, which is 40 ingredients I found in my unexpected quest. So that's where I'm at now, just starting that beautiful journey.
Well, I'll put your links in the show notes so people can find you. And I'm interested in reading your book. I actually haven't read your book, and so I'm going to order your book and read it.
Great.
But thank you again for being here. Thank you for your candidness, and we'll have to do
Thank you.
this again sometime.
For sure. Absolutely. I'm
All right,
always.
everybody here at Advocate of Soul, you know why I do this because I love to just highlight the human story. And if you feel you have a story, you feel like you have a message you want to share, you're welcome to bring it to here. Just email me in the YouTube link there, and you'll be able to find me. And I'll definitely get back to you and we'll connect and we'll share your story. All right, everybody, have a great day.